Greetings from the St. Charles History Museum, and welcome to the Junior Historical Society's walking tour of downtown St. Charles. Join us as we visit some of the historic buildings and learn the history. Our first stop on the tour is the restaurant, the office, in the early days of St. Charles. This building was Ira Menard's baking house. Menard had his first business on the first floor, while a concert hall occupied the second floor. Community events like school graduations and other meetings took place here. Judge Barry had his law office in a small lean-to attached to the east side of the building. This small section also served as the first library in St. Charles and was run by Ginny Lewis, daughter of the first mayor of St. Charles, James K. Lewis. Later, this building was operated by Bart Norris as a furniture store and funeral home. Walking east, the next building is the St. Charles History Museum. The History Museum occupies the building at 215 East Main Street. Built in 1928 as the Mechanic Oil Company, this building served as a gas station until 1990. Most residents remember this as one of two Texaco stations that were in St. Charles. After the station closed in 1990, the building sat empty for 10 years before work began to renovate at the space for Chain Museum, which at the time was located in the City Hall. While little was done to change the outside of the building, many changes were made to the inside of the building to make it ready for the museum exhibits. The museum officially opened the new space in May 2001. The museum houses exhibits on St. Charles history, a research library, and historic archive full of historic images and primary documents. Although it has been over 30 years since this home to a Texaco station, many in town still refer this building as the Old Texaco.
Continuing east on Main Street, we arrive at our second stop, the intersection of 5th Avenue and Main Street. The first building of interest at this intersection is the present-day Years Funeral Home. Built in 1841 by Dr. Whipple, the same building was home to several well-known St. Charles residents, including Dr. Abiel de Wolf, who took over from Dr. Whipple, and H.T. Rockwell, the 5th mayor of St. Charles. Crossing over 5th Avenue, we come to the St. Charles Public Library. The public library was the product of the St. Charles Library Association, founded in 1888. Mayor H.T. Rockwell was the chairman of the committee who decided on the incorporation of the library into the community. Miss Jenny Lewis, daughter of the city's first mayor, was the first librarian of the association. The library was subscription-based, with an annual rate of $2. By 1900, the library had almost 3,000 books, and soon after, the association decided, along with support from the community, to make the St. Charles Library a tax-funded public library. It officially became the St. Charles Public Library in 1906. Due to complaints from Westsiders about the great distance between themselves and the original library, a new library was planned for construction. Mr. Andrew Carnegie donated $12,000 to erect a free public library building for St. Charles. The new site, located on South 6th Avenue, only a block away from the original location, was originally a dump. Phillips, Rogers, and Woodyard, Chicago architects, designed the building, which opened in December 1908. Since then, the library has grown and become rich with literature, as well as new mediums, such as DVDs, CDs, video games, and now computer catalogs of all their available items. New additions, including a mezzanine and a children's reading room, as well as a 14s-only section, have added to the spectrum of users the library has. Just last year, almost 1.6 million items were checked out, and around 500,000 patrons visited the library. In St. Charles, around 50% of the city's population has their own library cards. It has been and continues to be a central hub of the town. Leaving the library and heading north across Main Street, we can see the Stevens S. Jones House. S.S. Jones came to St. Charles in 1838 and is credited with changing the town's name to St. Charles after the news that there was already a Charleston in Illinois. After much discussion, it was Jones who offered St. Charles as an acceptable alternative. Jones was the first lawyer in St. Charles and had a small loft office behind his house. The office was removed from the lot and is now located on the grounds of the Dunham Hunt House. In addition to being a lawyer, Jones also served as a Kane County judge from 1843 to 1846. Heading west back across Fifth Avenue, we enter Baker Park. This park was once known as the East Side Park, but was renamed Baker Park in honor of Edward Baker. Mr. Baker, or the Colonel as he was known, was a great philanthropist in St. Charles and built many buildings including the Baker Church next door to the park. This park was near the original claim of the first settler, Evan Shelby. Mr. Shelby came here in 1834 and built a log cabin and started farming. Later, a brickyard was located here. Continuing across 4th Avenue, we come to Baker Church. The Baker Memorial United Methodist Church was constructed in 1953 and was a gift from Edward Baker to the Methodist Church in honor of his parents. Before the church was built, the home of Reed Ferson stood on this land. Mr. Ferson was one of the earliest settlers and a major developer in the early town of St. Charles. When Colonel Baker purchased the property in the 1950s to build the church, the home was moved to a lot near Fulton and 5th Avenues.
Proceeding north along 4th Avenue, we now turn and walk down Cedar Avenue into the area known as Century Quarters. Welcome to stop number 3. The historic homes in this area were at one time the residence of well-known businessmen and a lot of mayors. The first home is the Hunt Home and was built between 1836 and 1841 by Bella Hunt. Bella Hunt was one of the early settlers into the area, and along with Ira Minard and Reed Ferson, helped establish this town. Today, the Hunt Home is one of the oldest brick homes in St. Charles. It was built with bricks from the Penny Brickyard, which was only 1 block away from the house where Baker Park stands today. The house was passed into the Hunt family members. First it was Bella's son Frank, and then Frank's 2 daughters, Iffy and Eva. The Hunt sisters continued to live in the home until 1980s, when it was sold to Jane Dunham of Wade and turned into a museum. The museum closed in 2010, and the building is currently owned by the City of St. Charles. Also located on the property are the S.S. Jones Law Office and the Shelby Bell Tower. Just a block east down from Cedar Avenue was Mayor Clinton's Wings residence. In the house building now housing Townhouse Bookstores, Wings served as the second mayor of St. Charles. He was also an active member of the Board of Trustees and the school board. Wing and his wife Margaret had 9 children. Sadly, 3 of the older children died in 1865, and in 1884, the 3 youngest children died all within a week of each other, leaving 2 daughters, Hortense and Harriet, and a son, Clinton Jr., as the only surviving children of the family. The whole family is buried in a large section in the North Cemetery. Kitty corner from the Wing house is the Collins House, well known as the Stone House on Cedar. Like many of the homes in this section, it is no longer a residence but is now a shop. Built in 1853 by Thomas Collins, it is thought to be, or was thought to be, a stop of the Underground Railroad. There are several homes located in and around St. Charles that are thought to be stops or stations as they used to be called. There was an anti-slavery group in Kane County, and many residents openly opposed slaves. Because it was illegal, the records of this Underground Railroad dating the houses were not kept. But we have found clues, including letters with vague references and suspicious tunnels under homes, which have led to the thought that several homes in the area, including the Collins, were indeed involved with the Underground Railroad. Continuing On Cedar Avenue, we arrive at the banks of the Fox River and the Freedom Trail. Welcome to stop number 4. The Freedom Trail, once called Langham Trail, is a section of bike path which winds behind the Municipal Building, the Old City Building, and the fire station, and Potawatomi Park. Originally built in 1935 with funds from the WPA, the Works Progress Administration's Langham Trail honored Mayor Langham. He served the longest as mayor in St. Charles. He served from 1929 to 1957. Langham Trail was not the only WPA project in St. Charles, though. Potawatomi Park also benefited in 1935. The swimming pool, the 9-hole golf course, and the baseball fields were built in Potawatomi Park. While the pool has had upgrades over the years, the golf course and the baseball fields stay the same and still attract many people to the park every year. Along the Freedom Trail are 2 markers reminding passengers of St. Charles history, the first being the statue of Acrobat and the other is the bell from the old Shelby School. Acrobat was dedicated in 1988 and sculpted by Guy Bellavere. It is the second Native American statue to be erected in St. Charles. The first statue was located in Potawatomi Park and was placed there in 1915. In the 1960s, though, it was vandalized, knocked over, causing it to shatter into little pieces. But the only thing that was okay was the head, and the head is now kept in the St. Charles Historical Museum. Both statues are indented to remind the people of St. Charles of the people who lived here before us, and how the town was established. In the early days of St. Charles, the banks of the Fox River were dotted with mills. Sawmills, paper mills, and grist mills were located where the Municipal Building, the Hotel Baker, and the Harris Bank now stand. In order to operate the mills, there were no electricity in St. Charles until 1892. A dam was built across the river to harness the water's power. In 1892, a generator was placed at the northwest corner of the newly built city building. In addition to house the electrical utility, this new city building also housed the offices for the city government officials and the city fire department. In 1940, the current municipal building was built as a gift to the city of St. Charles from the Baker and Norris's family. The municipal building was designed by a noted architect, R. Harold Zook, in an Art Deco style. The glass dome still glows in different colors at night and is a well-recognized part of the St. Charles skyline.